Howdy everyone and welcome to our Steel Division stream. This one is going to be slightly different because, as hopefully all of you know, we are releasing Second Wave tomorrow at 15:30. So we're just gonna, this stream tonight is just gonna be me and Roland, well mostly Roland because you know the DLC a lot better than I do. Go through what's actually in it. We're gonna have a quick look at the closer game mode, and then tomorrow we'll have a release stream, and that's where we'll play the weekly game. I've sent out a challenge to Eugen,
but they are scared.
They're scared. That's the way I've decided to phrase it. It might actually be that, of course, they are releasing DLC for their game. So it might very well be that they're too busy. But if somewhere in the Eugene office they can find two players, we'll go 2v2. Otherwise, it might be Niklas versus Roland again in the close game. We'll see tomorrow. Right now, let's talk a bit about Second Wave.
Yeah.
Main feature, I would say, 4 new divisions, two allies, 2 axes. We've gone through them, a few of them. Before, I think we should just go through all of them again, just so everyone understands what's actually in the DLC. So, should we start with the allies?
Yeah, I think the most flashy one is the Fort Armored Georgie boys.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the main thing here is that they have an ace, which is the only ace of the DLC. The Abrams tank. It's a phase A tank, a leader. Mm-hmm. Which is super strong with 2 experience. So if you're not taking this one at the beginning of every game, then you're doing something wrong.
We've seen the 4th Armored twice so far. Both of them ran the Abrams with varied results.
Varied result. Oh,
in that it tends to die.
Unfortunate. But let's start at recon. As you can see, they have a lot of recon in phase A, and it's the standard stuff. You've got the small division and the vehicle, which is quite good because, as you can see, they also have quite a few tanks here. As it is an armored division, they come quite underwhelming, apart from the Abrams in phase A, but they ramp up very quickly in phase B with very cheap for 65 coins, very cheap in phase B. Mediocre tanks, but a lot, so you can overwhelm the enemy. Yeah,
because they just to go through, they start with phase A 80, and then they actually get 130 for both phase B and phase C.
Yeah.
So stronger sustain than many other divisions.
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. It's very consistent. You can sustain. You can keep pushing units to the front, so you can't be overwhelmed by the enemy, which is pretty good. A downside here is that they don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And you'll have to back that up with, 1, the Abrams, keep it alive for as long as possible, and use one of those. I feel like these guys are underused. They're very fast, mobile units, and they just boost everything around them. So if you can match your tanks up with one of those, one of the M20 commands, then you should be fine, and you should be able to go up against the superior Axis tanks as well. So if you look at infantry, the one thing that you notice here is that they come without anti-tank, so they come without bazookas.
Ooh.
And this is the weakness, this is the big weakness of this division. They are very strong in phase B and C, but in phase A they come very under-equipped for against tanks.
Yeah, so basically, if you're up against 4th Armored, you want to and you need to push in phase A.
Yeah, you need to push in phase A and focus heavily on armored vehicles, because they have a tough way of dealing with it. They have a few units, like the Abrams, which is a very strong tank, but it's only one, so it can't be everywhere at the same time. So if you can push them very early on, you can give them a lot of hell.
There are some anti-tank in B phase at the bottom there.
In B you get two packs, but it's still only bazookas. So as you can see here in the right corner, you have to be within the 200 meter range, which is very short.
Yeah, especially normally I feel like the bazookas are, at least when I'm watching other people play, it's like you want to have those hidden so that the tanks can actually drive past them. But if they show up in phase B, you're going to have a lot harder time actually getting them into a position where they then can plant an ambush.
Because it's hard if in phase B there's usually more troops on the map, so it's harder to move unseen. That's definitely very true. One of the things here as well is that you have to be very smart about how you use your tanks and your artillery, because they only come with one supply truck in phase A and phase B. So if you will see here, if you go all the way down the bottom, the next supply truck, and there's a lot, so there's 4 there, only comes in phase C. So you have to do 20 minutes with only one supply vehicle. So you kind of have to be smart about it, but it's definitely something that can be doable. You get to move the truck around a lot, and if you know the maps, if you know the roads, you can definitely move it around, and it should be fine. But it's something that you have to keep in the back of your mind. In that sense, it's definitely more of a mechanical division. And then if you go to anti-tank, and here you'll see the weakness. Well, I think it's a weakness in phase A for anti-tank. You've got a lot of bazookas. You got 2 expensive anti-tank guns, which are for 75 coins, and you only get 2 with a range of 1,000, which is good, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
The AP is pretty decent, and then you get 1 Hellcat, and this is one of those units that if you move it around smartly, you'll probably be able to get through to phase B very easily. But the problem is you have to move it around smartly, because if you see here, it's one of the fastest units, ground units in the game. It's 50 kilometers an hour off-road, it's 100 on-road. So that's super fast. I think there's nothing that is faster at the moment. And they have a 1,200 range. So if you use the Hellcat well, you can overcome the deficit, the anti-tank deficit in phase A, and move into phase B without any bruises. Then moving on to the anti-air, it's very standard allied anti-air. There's not much to be said about it. The range is pretty decent, but I think they're a bit too expensive for what they give.
Okay.
So if you want to win the air battle, you have to be smart in what you use here in the actual airplanes. One of the interesting things here is that they added a recon plane, which wasn't very much used before this patch, because they were very slow. So what they did now was they made it super fast, and for only 10 points more than the old recon plane. You see, if the old one had 125 kilometers an hour, which is very slow in the air, this one has 650.
Slightly faster.
Slightly faster. It's a joy to watch, to be honest. It's very fun to see, and the optics are still good. So that's one of the plus points there as well. And then artillery is the last one. They aren't overwhelmingly good in artillery, but they come with an off-map artillery unit in phase A, and I'm a fan of those. So always take it. It'll win you games. But yeah, so as you can see, it's a pretty well-rounded division with its strengths in its number of tanks for a cheap price. But you have to overcome the armor penetration in phase A, because they, in my opinion, they lack that still. And then,
that's the 4th armored.
That's the 4th armored. Yeah.
Do we want to go do the second allies straight away, or do we want to do the armored Axis division?
I think that's interesting. Yeah, we can do the armored Axis and then kind of compare. Yeah, the name doesn't matter. So the added armored Axis, the 9 Panzer Schnelle Division, or however you pronounce it.
Division.
Division.
I have no clue if that's how you're supposed to pronounce it.
Sorry for all the Germans out there. Our German is horrible.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
As you can see in the top left, the way the points are distributed is very similar to the 4th Armored of the Allies. I think there's like a difference of 5 points or something, but it's certainly negligible. What you will see in recon is that they come with armor penetration recon units. They have a very small range, but they're super useful. These are the type of recon units that you can just leave out in the open for a while, and there's not that much that can push them away. At least not in phase A. So you can make good use of them, and they come in groups of 5 as well. So you can keep pushing them out.
A lot.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. If we go over to infantry, it's more or less the standard infantry division. You've got your leader unit, you've got the standard grenadiers, all with armor penetration, all with bazookas. And you've got the Sturmpioneers, which are super strong, especially in village combat. Because you can just blast somebody out of a building and take it over.
I mean, flamethrowers are always nice.
Yep.
I mean, it's just
they add a lot of nice things to gameplay.
I mean, it's just fun. It's such a weird thing, like where you're like, ooh, yes, they're good for this, but also flamethrowers in general, and you're like, yeah.
Exactly.
It's the type of unit that are, even if they were in a division where it doesn't make sense, I'd be like, yeah, but don't I want flamethrowers?
Yeah, exactly. But fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Fire wins.
Like, I feel like I need this.
Yeah, that's true, and it's just always so strong. If they're holed into a position, you throw a flamethrower at them and you get them out. Another thing to note here is that they have the SMG 42s with 800 range, which is I think 200 more than the standard Allied ones, which is super strong. They only come in packs of 3 though, and they're 55, so they're quite expensive for what they give. But if you find a good spot for them, then they are pure value.
Yeah, so it's more of a, I would say those would be more dependent on the map.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Like it's not something you want all of them in your battle group unless.
Exactly. What I've noticed is that these heavy machine gunners are very good, of course, in open spots or to hunt down small corridors. So they're very situational. Because if you put them too close on the front, I think they're only 2 people. It's only 2 people, so they get wiped out pretty easily. So you have to be mindful of where you position them. That's definitely true. And then the rest of phase B and C is very similar. The difference here is that they stack up in experience. So 2 experience points in phase C, you're not gonna stress these guys out very quickly. So that's very, very valuable as well, especially on infantry combat. And then it's an armored division, so the strength is definitely here. Unlike the Allied division, this one comes with a lot of strength. These guys come with something in phase A at least.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
As you can see, they're quite expensive for what they bring. They're 55 points, and they only give 4 armor penetration and 5 armor. But in phase A, there's not really that much to deal with them. So you can definitely they cost next to nothing, so you can definitely push them out and try to really make get a push going in phase A, which is very interesting. And they're quite fast as well. So if you can see here, these are the fastest units in this division, the fastest ground unit.
Yeah.
40 on the road, 40 off the road, 80 on the road. So they'll get to where you need them very quickly. And then going down,
there's a lot of experience here.
Yeah, these guys are good at shooting, I think. And as you can see, there's a lot of experience, but there's also, they come in a good sized amount as well. And a lot of armor penetration, which is very useful if you want to have max range fights. So if you fight on 1000 range, you're still going to have a good chance of hitting, because they have experience, but also a good chance of actually penetrating the armor, which is a big advantage.
Yeah.
So if you get a hit and it doesn't bounce, then chances are that you'll destroy the enemy tank, which is super good. And then moving down, it's variants with more experience as well. Yeah. These guys are super good. If you get to phase C, move them out, make everything around them better, and they have to experience themselves. So
yeah,
this is definitely the strongest side of this division.
Okay.
Just pure armor.
Yeah.
And then moving to support. Again, 1 supply unit in phase A, but they get 2 more, so it's more you layer it out more during the game. So they also get two supply trucks in phase B, so they can it's less mechanical in that sense. Again, these ones are I'm warming up to them. Because they're fast, they get everywhere where you need them, and they make everything around them better. So it's like, if you're in a pickle somewhere on the map, move one there, and you'll be fine. Other than that, not that, well, of course everything is interesting, but not that much special. The flamethrower here, They have a lot of fire again, but I'm not overly a fan of them because their range, the flamethrower range, is only 260.
Yeah.
And these vehicles have to get up very close into infantry, and chances are that they'll get blown up before they can actually use them.
Yeah, so you have to be able to roll up on infantry units that do not have any type of anti-air bazooka with them.
Exactly.
Or you know. So.
Yeah, if your recon has to be good to use these.
Yeah.
Because the difference between a bazooka and this range is only 60 meters, so you either have to be very good at managing your units, or you have to exactly know where everybody is. And then the anti-tank here again. These ones I like because they're cheaper. You get them out of the map quicker because it's 55 instead of the Allied variant of 75. They have 1 AP less, but overall, you're more flexible because they're cheaper. So I like them a bit more. Same here. The Marder is good, but it's slower, so I prefer the Hellcat. And then the standard anti-tank. Interesting here is the Marder, one Marder in Phase B, and then the Jagdpanzer in Phase C, which is a super strong anti-tank unit.
And fun to say for whatever reason. Jagdpanzer.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily know why, but whenever I see one, I'm like, yes, Jagdpanzer.
You're always happy when they go out. I like because you can notice them on the battlefield because they're flat. It's like it's something different.
And usually when they come out, you're like, something's going to blow up at some point. It's either going to be this Jagdpanzer or it's going to blow something else up.
Somebody is going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And as you can see here, they're as quick as any other vehicle, but the 1200 range, which I'm a fan of. And they come with a machine gun, so they're pretty versatile as well. If we go to anti-air, you'll notice that they get 1 flak in Phase B, which is not that much, but then it picks up in Phase C, where they get, one unit per pack, but you have 2 packs with 2 experience and 1200 range. So these are, I love flags. They're super versatile. They kill tanks, they kill planes. Like, you want to come in my territory, you're gonna get shot down. So that's a lot of fun. And then this is, I think, the weakness of this division is the artillery. They are very expensive, long range, but the AoE is quite small.
Yeah.
And the rate of fire is decent. It's 10 rounds per minute. It's pretty okay, but for 95 points, I find them lacking a bit. This one is very interesting because it's also an anti-tank unit with the off-map artillery. So it has its versatility, but I haven't used it enough to say if it's really good or not. But I would say overall artillery is the weakness of this division. And then here you see the old airplane, the old recon airplane for 60. And it's 175 kilometers an hour with very high optics instead of the good optics on the Allied super fast variant. And then overall the planes noticeable here is the FW 190, 2 stars, medium resilience, good agility, reasonably fast, and 1200 range, which is pretty good.
And a lot of them. It's like 4 and 2 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So those are the 2 armored division.
Yeah.
And since we got the question previously, I'm going to say in the middle of this, but we did have some question from Twitch chat, what the price of the second wave DLC is, and it's $7.99, and that's euros and US, and then I guess it's local equivalent.
Probably.
But that's where it's priced. Now you know. Releasing tomorrow. If you're not watching this on Wednesday, the 20th of September, it's releasing on Thursday, the 21st of September.
Yeah.
I'm being very informative. Infantry divisions.
Yes.
What do we have?
And this is where Eugen went very creative, because if you see in the top left corner, and I like that they did this, they kind of switch up, because usually what we've seen so far is that they ramp up the coin prices, and so it goes from 80 to 100 to 150. But now they switched up that mechanic a little bit, giving 100 in Phase A with the SSB. Then moving on to 80, so they actually become a lot weaker in Phase B, and then giving them a double bump in Phase C, where you're gonna overwhelm the enemy most likely. Hopefully.
So yeah, so definitely a case of push really hard early on, get the territory, and then slowly retreat until you're in Phase C and can push forward again.
Yeah, exactly. Like get as much as you can in Phase A, because 100 in Phase A is pretty massive. And then just as you said, dig in and try to not lose as much territory. Get that 52 or the 51% of the territory.
Well, it's changed now to 50.
Yeah, 52.
52.
So now points start ticking on 50, which is a super good change.
Yeah.
So you can't just sit and do nothing.
I think it's smart.
Yeah, it's a really smart addition.
So what do we have here?
This is something you'll notice immediately. A lot of stars.
Yes.
These guys are the secret special brigade, or the special. Let me check. Sorry. What's the SSB stand for? The Special Service Brigade. So they're very good. They're special service, like they're super experienced. And then you'll see scouts, very standard again. Here, as with the Axis Armored Division, they come with some armor penetration scouts. So they're good. They're a bit faster, if I'm not mistaken. 30 off-road, 95 on-road. So they'll very mobile, and hard to push them out of the field. Very strong if you want a lot of vision. And then this is the strength of this infantry division. Surprisingly,
yeah,
they're all airborne, which
experienced airborne.
Experienced airborne, exactly, and a lot of versatile and interesting units as well. So you've got the leader. You see it very often. Like I think every division has a leader unit, but then here they've got a commando unit with a sniper rifle, or a scoped rifle at least. So that's something that, if I recall correctly, we haven't seen before except for in recon units. So you can kind of play around the sit in stealth and shoot from a distance with the sniper rifle. I think it adds a lot of interesting mechanics to the game, and you can get to position your units in a very fun way.
Yeah.
And then overall, yeah, you see airborne. You can push very aggressively with them, because if they get stuck behind enemy lines, they don't get any penalties.
Yeah.
So even if the front pushes past them, they're still as effective as they normally are. So that's so you can just push and have them stand somewhere. Very interesting. Here in Phase B, they only get the heavy machine guns. So in Phase A, you have to do without, but once Phase B hits, for only 20, you get 4 packs.
Yeah,
or 4 units, and they're pretty good.
Yeah, especially considering you only get 80 in Phase B, so you need to make it count.
Yeah, exactly. Again, note here that they don't have bazookas apart from these 2 packs in Phase B, so that's something you have to be aware of. The Phase A is always going to be hard against Axis tanks. On the tank front, they're pretty weak. They have 2 Shermans, which are amphibious, good on some maps. I think Odon with the river, where they can just run over, which makes them very valuable in that map.
Yeah.
Definitely something to think of. And then in Phase B, they get the Shermans standard. They get 5 of them. They're good in what they do, not super special. And then the Churchill leader unit in Phase C. But this is something the tank division, tank aspect is where they lack. Here again, you'll see that in support, it's one supply truck in Phase A again, and then you get them in Phase C. Centaur is something that I don't think it's very meta at the moment. The non armor penetration tanks, but it's pretty good. Like this one with 2 stars. I would definitely try it out, because it's 1,200 range, and if you fire it at a building, everything leaves. So that's pretty good. If you go down, the crocodile, but the same issue as before.
Yeah.
Short range, and only in Phase C. Anti-tank. Here you'll see anti-tank is an issue for these 2 allied divisions. The only anti-tank up until Phase C, apart from the tanks that you get, are these 8 units of bazookas, which is lacking.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I think if you want to be efficient with this brigade or this division, you have to make use. And I'm gonna switch skip the anti-air for a second. I'm gonna go to artillery. This is the unit that makes up for their weaknesses against tanks. This comes in Phase B. It's an off-map artillery unit, but instead of using guns, they use a ship with 960 rockets. And it's, once you see it in game, it is, I want to say ridiculous, but it's just fun. It's like it flattens an area. It only has one shot, and it's quite short range, so you need to know where to position it. But this is something that if you do it correctly, and if it works, it is so enjoyable to watch, because everything in an area is just flattened for like a minute or two. And then afterwards you just move in and it's yours. It's quite enjoyable. So this is really what makes up their weakness in Phase B and against tanks, because you just push them out by sheer guns. Ships are fun, apparently. And then here, mortars. I'm quite a fan of mortars. 15 rounds a minute. Their AoE is pretty small, their range is pretty small, so you have to know where to position them. But to experience, they only cost 40 and you get 4 in a pack. So they're a smart choice if you want to push very early in Phase A, which I think you should do with this division. Then these ones, longer range, but they cost almost double, and they don't shoot as fast. I'm not sure which one is stronger. I prefer these ones just because they fire a lot more. Yeah. And 700 meters is not that bad. Going back to the anti-air, it's very standard again. Only in Phase A is it when you get units. Phase B, there's nothing. And then in Phase C, it ramps up, but it's very standard Allied Division units. 800 range, 1000 range, not super strong. And then the air, one of the strengths of this division, apart from infantry as well, they come with a recon plane of 150 units. It's a super fast recon plane, and it has guns as well, so it can defend itself. So it's not completely defenseless on the field. If they send the fighter after you, chances are that you'll be a bit quicker, and you'll be able to fight back. So your recon will be, you will be able to defend your eyes in the air.
Nice.
To be noted here is that it's only good optics, so it's not very good as in the slower plane, but it's still very usable, very flexible. Bombers in Phase A. Let's see. This one is pretty interesting. It's to experience the sea fire here. Yeah. To experience very strong plane. The resilience is bad, but if you can position it well, you'll be fine. And then Hellcats. These are quite strong as well with the guns, and 230 kilogram bombs, which I don't think we've seen so far.
That's
in poundage or whatever you call it. So it's something new, and they're a bit slower, but I think if you use them correctly, they'll be fun to play with. And so that's the SSB. As with any infantry division, it's infantry and air that is strong. Yeah. And their mortars are very, very useful.
So they're very experienced infantry, and they have the switch in that they get a lot of A in B and then a ton in C again. Now the last new division, the infantry on the Axis side, is a bit different.
Yeah, it's, I would say, almost the opposite of the SSB. As you can see, they did the same thing here, where instead of making Phase B weaker, they made it really strong. So they go from 100 to 150 in Phase B, and then in C it just trickles down again to 100. The most notable difference with the Allied counterpart is that instead of being very experienced, the 16th Luftwaffe is all disheartened.
Yeah, so they need someone around that can tell them what to do, so they don't so they don't freak out.
Yeah, that's very true. Like they're very cheap, or well, they're quite cheap. They come with armor penetration, but they are 25% more easily stressed out. So you want to always pair them with a leader unit. If they're not with a leader unit, they're just gonna be wiped out quite instantly, and they won't do well under artillery fire. So as you can see here, they do come with the machine gun of 800 range. So they have some strengths here, but I think overall their infantry is quite weak. It's just this division is more a case of try to overwhelm in numbers, and not in actual experience and firepower and well.
Yeah, you
shooting on sight.
Yeah, you just need to put a lot of pieces. And
Yeah.
Just,
I think this division is very interesting for 2v2. Because you can just hold the front, put a lot of people in, put a lot of infantry in there, and have somebody else pick up the slack while you just kind of defend.
Yeah.
So in that sense, might be very interesting to use. Recon, very basic. As you can see, no vehicle scouts. Tanks. This is where it gets quite interesting. You'll notice that they have phase A tanks for 20 coins.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some at the top there that are just 10. What?
These don't come with armor penetration.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So what's the issue there?
The issue there, and it's so funny because at first when we first tested it, I didn't realize it, and so I built a lot of tanks at the beginning, and you know that they roll in. They only have 10. They only drive at 10 kilometers an hour and 15 on the road.
Oh.
Which is ridiculously slow. I
That
think
is
it takes
very,
like
very
5
slow.
minutes till they reach the front. And so the first time I used them, I was like, where are my tanks? Come on. So they seem very strong, and they come in pairs of 8, which is a lot, but you have to take into account that you have to plan in advance.
Yeah.
So these are not units that you just throw out if you need reinforcements very quickly. It moves up in phase B with 1 tank, the Stark 3. For 150, and this is the standard, very good Axis tank, only 1,000 range. It's a good one, but it's only 1. So tanks are really the weakness of this division. And then here you see the leader unit, and then Stugs in phase C. Moving to support, they have the flamethrowers, but I'm not a huge fan of the support flamethrowers because they're only 2, and you have to get them close to be effective.
Yeah.
So these guys are not optimal, but if you can position them right in a bush, I'm sure that people have had super plays with them already. Here, phase A, you get two vehicles instead of 1 with all the three other previous divisions, and then again it ramps up in phase B and phase C. There's some anti-infantry tanks here, which are strong. And definitely worth checking out, especially this one here as well. This is a machine gun, if I'm not mistaken, with 800 range. So it's kind of a very mobile, heavy machine gun tank. Anti-tank, again the 55 pack.
Yeah, and we're back to some disheartened units at the top there.
Yeah, and disheartened bazookas. Yep, exactly. Anti-air. This is interesting. They come with flags in phase A already. Quite expensive, but for two experience points, flags in phase B and flags in phase C. So that's
lot
their
of
strength.
flak.
Yes, a lot of flak. Artillery, mortars, as any good infantry division, but their artillery is good. It's long range, but it's slow. So it's a trade-off that you have to take into account. And then moving on to the air, infantry division, strong air. They have a off-map artillery plane.
Is it a good one?
I'm not a big fan. No, it's a good one, especially in phase A because it only costs 100 coins. Very high optics, but I don't think it actually spots on the ground. I'm not sure actually. No, it doesn't. And 175 kilometers an hour. It's very strong against certain divisions. If you know that they don't have any fighters in phase A, definitely use it because off-map artillery in phase A is pretty strong. Other than that, it's very situational. Going down, a lot of tank busters and rockets, which is something you didn't see with the allied divisions. You'll notice that there aren't any fighters. So if you want to take out allied fighters, you'll have to use the rockets or anti-air. You get a lot of flags, so you can hopefully deal with it. And then in phase C, another off-map artillery. But overall, not a lot of experience apart from the ones in phase C, and that's kind of it.
Okay, that should be the 4 divisions in second wave, and of course that one ace as well. Before we go, let's have a quick look at closer. I know that there's been a blog post from Eugen about it, but I thought we could just open up a skirmish with closer combat so people can see what's going on. I should also mention that there's also new 4v4 servers being added, official servers they will go live at release.
Okay.
So they're not live yet, so we can't, we can't show them off.
But I'm sure, yeah, 4v4 servers.
Yeah,
self-explanatory.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully everyone is like, yes, okay, I see what's going on here.
So the closer combat, I want to show some cheese in closer combat, if that's okay.
Do it.
I'll quickly fill a battle group. It only takes like 5 seconds. Because the weakness here with these tanks is that they are very slow, but in closer combat, as you spawn very close, and they're super cheap, it's gonna be quite interesting. Okay, we get them. Save.
Good. That was one of the things I was actually thinking about. I'm like, how does this actually work?
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be quite fun. So they only cost 20. Am I in closer? I hope I'm in closer.
I think you're in closer combat. So I guess we'll find out soon enough.
So yeah, they cost 20. They're super slow, but in closer you spawn next to the battlefield, like next to the front line. So if you can see here, the main difference is that the front line or the deployment zone is very high up the field. So you can just bum rush. And I did this to Nicholas while testing, so I was very happy that I won that game. It's like revenge off camera for the beating I got last week. But he was probably preoccupied. That's the only reason I won.
I'm sure.
So yeah, as you can see, you can spawn very close to the border, and there's a difference as well. You can spawn units without their transport.
Yeah.
Which, with these units, is not very... it doesn't make a difference. Yeah. Other than they are immediately deployed, so you don't have to unload them. But it gets interesting if you go to... And now I hope that they have some, otherwise... Yeah. There we go. So these guys come with... these recon units come with a jeep. And that jeep, if you deploy... It's... an armored vehicle. If you deploy it, or if you unload it, it's a unit on its own. So you kind of get 2 units for the price of 1. And what you can do now is you can get rid of that cost. So you can just spawn them already unloaded, which means that they spawn on foot. They only cost 15 instead of the
but that still essentially uses the card, right?
Yeah. It still uses the card. Yeah, exactly. So if you use this one, you see the card goes away.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of you're able to get more out on the battlefield. And you'll be more flexible because you don't always need those jeeps, or you don't always have a use for those jeeps, and maybe you can use those 15 points that you save on a bigger, more efficient unit. So it gives you more tactical flexibility, which I'm a fan of. Very important to know though that if you start the game, and if you then spawn them without transports, they'll actually spawn without transport, so they'll have to run.
Yeah. So probably not the smartest idea.
Yeah, it's... If you're short on coins and you really need to get something out and you can't wait another minute till your money comes in, you can send them out.
Yeah.
But it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, definitely. And then the main differences that we see here is that you're immediately into the action. You're thrown into the action and you can start fighting, and you don't have the thing where if you mistake, you
should probably move your tanks since you're trying to chase with them.
It was to make a point. Otherwise, I've given them some
recon.
Yeah, some recon, so they can actually see something as well now. Look how slow they are. So they're not very useful, or well.
I mean, it's very.
They are useful.
It's very impressive. Just being like, look at us.
But yeah, that's. I wasn't aware that I was actually gonna have to play.
No, you don't. But that was.
I don't think I can win this anymore.
No,
I think I lost.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have. But that's all we're gonna show for tonight. Tomorrow we will be back with the release of Second Wave. We get to do some confetti in the streaming studio, which is extra fun because I bought new confetti things, which seems a lot more serious than my previous ones. Hopefully that works out. But don't miss that. That's straight after our Stellaris launch stream. We're actually launching 2 things tomorrow. And then, of course, everything should be available straight after that. Roland, thank you so much for showing the new divisions and the great use of cheese. When it comes to
everybody has to use it now.
Yes. We will be playing that tomorrow. See you guys then. Goodbye for tonight.
Bye.